I hope that, and I believe that when we come up on the other side of the pandemic, we will, have new insights going forward and doing things better to each other and the world we're living in.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boyz, a Swimrun Podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and welcome to episode 44 of the show. Fofo. On this week's episode, like some of the most popular superheroes with alliterative names, like this week's guest, he definitely fits in. We're not talking about Matt Murdock, Daredevil, Clark Kent, everyone knows who that is, Bruce Banner, Hulk, or Peter Parker. Pretty much everyone knows who that is. Spider-Man. This week we have the one and only Oscar Olsson on the show. While he really doesn't need an introduction, we should probably do one anyway. He's widely regarded as one of the best swim runners in the world, and he's an awesome ambassador for the sport. We had a blast with this interview, and we're super stoked to share that conversation with you later in the show.
Yes, so for us, the Low Tide Boyz, it is race week.
Finally.
We are super stoked for Odyssey Swimrun Austin. That's happening on Sunday, November 8th. The hay is in the barn. The Lincoln logs are stacked. And we can't wait to see a bunch of our fellow swim runners, listeners, and friends over at Pace Bend Park in Texas. Really looking forward to it. And the excitement is building. We're just kind of getting, easy swims, easy runs, just keeping everything fresh and loose. Try to pack here in the next few days or so and not have it be in the morning while I'm rushing out, because that's how you forget your paddles or something.
Yeah, that's when it's like, hey, Chris, can you pack an extra pool buoy or something? Which happy to do.
Yeah.
If needed. Definitely, we're flush with pool buoys, so that's not a problem.
We're flush. We're good. On to this week's shout-out.
Yeah, so this is kind of a theme. We tend to do this every 3.5 episodes or so, but we're shouting out the Commonwealth of Australia, the whole continent, down under. They've been climbing the charts on our downloads list recently. They're up over I think they're in 7th place now.
Ooh.
And we're just super happy that they're finding our brand of content, super niche content, interesting, I'm assuming. So keep it up and, g'day.
Aussie. I believe it is getting towards summertime there.
That's right.
So they're probably
getting
ready
primed.
to do from prime swim running season.
Yeah.
Down under.
Yeah, hopefully they get to have events.
Now for this week's Feats of Endurance Award. This week's winner is Lee G. He's a member of our Low Tide Boyz Strava Club, along with about 150 of our closest friends, so be sure to join that on Strava. He's been putting in some work headed into Swimrun Austin. He's also racing with one of our favorite swim runners and humans, Mr. Low Tide Boy himself, Marcus Barton. So enjoy the taper on that, and we'll see you there, Lee. Now,
that'll be fun.
The favorite theme song this week in Swimrun.
So we have another short report this week. There were no races again this week because of the increased COVID restrictions in Europe and elsewhere. But in happier news, we are super stoked to announce that this segment is now being powered by raceid.com. They recently rebranded from race.se to raceid.com in late October, and we're looking forward to beefing up our quote-unquote reporting with their help. So if you're looking for races to do in Europe and elsewhere, check them out. As always, send us an email, lowtideboyz with a Z at gmail.com. And tip us off if there's a race that you're doing or anything you'd like us to include.
Yes, on to the Low Tide Boyz updates. So we actually don't have any new updates for you. We always hitting you up for the shirts or let you know what triathlete article is out. But we don't have anything new this week. So maybe Chris and I are getting lazy or we're so nervous we have no energy to put towards other things.
All our energy is being focused.
Laser focused.
Intensity.
To cliff jumping. I will say in our training, to go all the way back to the beginning on the training update, we did a pier jump.
Oh yeah,
in San Francisco.
That's right. How did we not talk about that?
I don't know, but that was really cool, and we practiced it. I would say, what do you think that was, Chris? 10, 15 feet up? 10 to 12?
I'd say 15 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Chris and I we were running and we're like, let's just jump off the pier into the water and swim back in.
It was actually a pretty funny swim run practice because we were just greasing the wheels, just making sure everything's going, and we're doing our typical run to the pier back. And on the way out, I was like, hey, do you want to just jump off the pier? I think it's a citable offense, but so nobody rat us out.
You know, we're known as bad boys. We're the bad boys of swim run.
Bad boys with a Z.
There you go. It's our alternate team.
So we did a little cliff pier jumping just to get a sense of how that's going to be, and we think our strategy is going to be pool buoy engaged
between the wickets,
and we both had our goggles in our hands
and paddles on, and then tally ho, full send, and then I kind of went down. Well, I felt in my head that I was going down like a pencil, but I don't really know. Maybe Chris can, but Chris went out kind of like a T. But that seemed to work well for you too. Yeah,
well, that's old Escape from Alcatraz tactics right there, where you want to get back to the top of the water as quickly as possible.
Right, so you want to, when you enter the water, you kind of want to have a lot of surface area so you're not sinking. You don't want to go down 10 feet and have to like float all the way back up.
Yeah, which frankly, with the keel plus,
probably an impossibility.
Yeah, I mean, you're shooting out like you're shooting back out like the water's spitting you out.
Yeah, totally. So we're excited for those cliff jumps. We'll see you there if you choose to cliff jump. So on to this week's interview.
Yeah. So as we mentioned before, Oscar Olsson is one of the most well-known swim runners in the world, and definitely has a personality to match. His enthusiasm for swim run and the community is infectious, and really had a great time chatting with him about his swim run journey. We chatted about his athletic background, how he found swim run and fell in love with the sport. We chatted about how he prepares for races like the World Championship and races that he had a first impression like Catalina. Anyway, there's a lot of good content here. He's a dad like us, and we're really glad we finally got him on the show, and we think that everyone's going to be laughing and smiling throughout this episode.
It's a great one. So enjoy it. Oscar Olsson.
That's his name.
That's his name. Low Tide Boyz. Oscar Olsson.
All right, with us today we have Oscar Olsson, who's a stud swim runner out of Sweden, I think it's safe to say. We met him briefly at a wine and cheese reception in Catalina, which seems now like 10 years ago, but it was just back in late February. Welcome to the show, Oscar.
Thank you, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're super stoked to have you on. And I think before we get into sort of swim run and all this stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit about your athletic background and how you discovered the sport?
Yeah, so I came into sport when I was around 5 years old, playing soccer with a local team with guys being 7 years old. So got into soccer really early and had a soccer career, if you can call it that, until I was 18 years of age, playing pretty high level, Division 2 here in Europe. And then I got injured, which led me on to running. And I started with marathon running in, let's say, 2004. And got more and more hooked into endurance sports. And then I went to join the military for almost 2 years. And then actually after the military, or just in the end of my military service as a ranger, I got in contact with triathlon back in 2006. And then I actually, I got to go to Santa Monica in your state or in California. Yeah. And I studied there at the University of Santa Monica for 3 semesters. And at that time, I really took on triathlon, and I did some sessions with the LA Tri Club at the time, and did with some track sessions with a running club there. And starting to build up towards my first Ironman, which I later on did in 2007 as a rookie back in Sweden when I came home from the US. There's 2007. Are you still with me?
We're still here, yeah.
Where in the U.S. were you based?
So I was in 2007 doing my first Ironman. It went okay. I did 10:15, I think, in my first one, and basically there.
Yeah, that's okay. I think that's
pretty good.
okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
What Ironman was it?
I was only 22 years. I've basically self-coached, and triathlon was not the same as it's now with equipment. I borrowed the bike. I biked on from my stepdad, which was a very old bike, and I still rode I think 505, and so it was an interesting sport at that. It was not an Ironman. I mean, it was the Ironman distance, but it was a low-key race with I think maybe 600 or 700 racers, and I remember the T1 and T2 was like we had a share made of plast, which we were two races to share one share to sit on to do the the change and all
Put
that.
Your shoes on and stuff. That's pretty funny.
So like, I hope we don't get it from the swim at the same time. So we're gonna sit, share the share, sitting and changing our gear. And so moving on, then I just like tick that box off, and like I'm done with triathlon and Ironman. I've done that. That was cool. And I didn't train for 2 years, and then just find myself overweight and obese almost, I would say, working long hours. And then in 2009, I decided to make a real serious try on triathlon again, and I trained really structured and from January 2009, and then in 2010 I did an Ironman again, and then I did I think 9:15, so 1 hour faster, and then the year after that the goal was sub 9. I did that. Then the goal was sub 8:45, so I did I think 8:44 or 8:45 just in the first Ironman in Sweden, and then in 2013 I was supposed to do 8:29, so I tried to cut 50 minutes each year, and then I got injured in 2013, came back in 2014, did Ironman Barcelona, pretty good, and then I got injured again. I mean, I wasn't injured so I couldn't train. I just had a really problem with my hip sitting in the tempo position. Moved me. Yeah, so that moved me back to. I came into Xterra because I had drove a lot of motocross when I was in my youth. So I had very easy going in the trails on the mountain bike. So I went to Xterra 2015 and 16 and did pretty good in my age group, qualified to the Xterra Worlds in Maui. So I went there twice, and then in 2016, when the hip didn't get better and I didn't get around the issue with the going tempo position for long hours, I just found swimrun. In the same time, around 2014, I won my first big race, and just felt that this suits me very well with the strength and technical running, and with the swimming with the pull buoys and paddles kind of thing, and going long, especially. So I got very familiar with the sport, even if I tried it first time in 2010. A very small local race, but then 2014 was Öloppet, which was at the time the biggest race in Sweden to numbers participants. Even though Ödyssey obviously was the bigger show, still Öloppet was the biggest race set to racers. So I won that 2014, 15, 16, 17, second 18, and then fifth time 19. So that become my home race where I grew into the sport. And then 2016, based on the results I guess I did on Öloppet, I got asked from a former champ, Paul Kroshak, and a good friend, both there at the time and then also today, to race with him. With only 2 weeks prior leading into the race, I got the question then in like 15th of August, like, Oscar, you want to race? Like, I remember the pressures, and sorry for just going on and on here now, but
it's good.
Just so Paul, I remember Paul, he's a Canadian super athlete. He's ITU guy, really strong triathlete who when he came to Sweden moved on to more running, and I think he's done like sub 230 marathons and then won the Ödyssey twice. So racing with him, will put a lot of pressure on me. But I was really excited, and some kind of grew into the with the pressure to the task. And he sent me YouTube clips. Because every year, at that time anyway, Ödyssey did coverage of 8 or 9 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So they were covering the race in live with a commentator, and then they put the film, which was 8-9 hours, onto YouTube. So he sent me the 3 years prior to 2016, like 14, 15, or 13, 14, 15, and told me, look at this coverage. And he highlighted some of the different times in the 8-hour long coverage. Like, look at this when we're coming up to this island, and here we have to be careful. And so, like, I learned the course by looking through 24 hours of old coverage of Ödyssey.
Like,
the last 2 weeks.
That's like how all the football players and the baseball players are always studying game film. What's the defense they're playing? What's the hitter going to be? So that's pretty impressive. I mean, that's a lot of homework to be doing about a race.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, like, did it work? Did watching all those videos help?
Yeah, I mean, we did. I think we did really good. I mean, he was so experienced. He knew the course like so good, and I would say that I become that knowledge with the course now after 4 years of racing. But at that time, he took us through the race so good. And I remember we had a strong American team with us the first 3-4 hours with Lars Finnegar and his friend doing the race for the first year, and they were really strong. And I think they went a little over their own ability the first 3-4 hours, but I mean, obviously they had the capacity to go with us in the beginning, but maybe went out a little hard, and then they struggled the second part of the race. But we had so much fun having them with us in the front group of, I think, 4, 5, 6 teams battling out. And Paul just, he said, just sit back, do this. He was so calm because he knew, like, I was watching, for example, Lars and that team, and like, you're nervous about your competition because, oh shit, they're strong, and what's going to happen next? I have to make a move. But Paul, he was always so confident and calm in, like, we're just going to sit in and wait for Una. It's the half marathon run after 5 hours of racing, where the race every year, basically has
blows up.
Yeah. And so he just took us through the race, and then we just came to Una, and we had lost on a trail section, which was my strength, but Paul's weakness. So we lost 2.5 minutes to Lelle and Daniel, and then we came to Una. Paul just hammered in like 4:15 pace, 4:0 pace, and we closed. I remember when we got off to the tarmac after like 19k of running on Una, we could see them, and we could almost, I could feel their shoulders with my hands. We were that close, leaving Una into the trails, and in the final 45 minutes of trails, they dropped us again. But we could really taste the victory, and it was a really close race, and it was close racing, and it was, I mean, after that kind of experience, I was just hooked, and like, I'm going to come back to this race to win it and to race it and give it my best and do everything I can to be on the top of the podium. And I've been trying that since that day. And the funny thing is actually that I've been racing with different guys each year, and that's maybe one of my challenges, that for everybody, all the teams in Swimrun, to find a consistent teammate that, I mean, work as a team for a longer period and through several seasons, and grow stronger together and work, because it's really a team sport effort, like any other team sport. So, but in Swimrun, I mean, I understand people change sports, and they are, different years, and they switch partners, but if you look at successful teams, they usually have Axelgård and the Beaver brothers are really in the top of the world. category now, and George and Pontus, the region champs. Been working together for a long time, and that's a challenge with swimrun with the team is I think. And, yeah.
So why don't we dive into that a little bit? So you've raced with a bunch of different teammates, and it sounds like obviously at your level you're on the pointy end of being one of the most elite swim runners in the world. It sounds like the challenge is more about finding someone who has the same dedication and drive and the same goals, rather than just like a personality thing. Would you say that's been the issue in trying to find someone who's as driven as you with the same goals?
Yeah. I mean, and I did. I mean, in 2018. Now we are jumping from years to years here, but just to stay on the subject, which you're spot on in your analysis, and that's in 2018. I raced with Adriel, and he decided I asked him several months ahead, but then he really said that I don't want to race, I can't commit to it, and I said okay, fine. So I dropped the plans of racing Ödyssey in like May, June. And then 10 days out of the race, when we have lost our spot, he texted me 10 p.m. in the night and said, "Fuck it, we do it." And I emailed the Ödyssey organization and asked if we still could get the spot back, and they were, they know us, and they were kindly, and I think they wanted us on the starting line. And then we got the race, but I didn't have one session over 2 hours in length prior to the race, the last 3 months going into the race. So, I mean, I was not fit. Like in 2016, I've done all the homework. In 2019, I have done all the homework, and which I know requires to do whatever, sub 8 hours and be in the mix for the last hour. But this year, so we were doing a really great race, and we were in the lead in a long way through Une before we just, and mostly me, just cramped up because I think, the lack of endurance training and specific sessions that we know we need to do to get fit for it. Yeah. And we lost. We finished third that year, still super great performance, and with two teams beating us at their best day, and it was a fair race. But you need to, as you say, you need to have a commitment with a teammate. And that's in all levels of swimrun. I mean, if you want to maximize the teams and the athletes' ability or result in the race, you understand? Even if it's coming top 50, if you want to maximize the
result.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a fascinating sort of behind the curtain look at what it really takes for the top of the sport to get there. You're watching hours and hours of old footage to study transitions and swim exits and swim entrances and stuff. What else have you kind of found that really helps you get that edge? Is it training, or is it really dialing your nutrition in, or is it studying the kind of game film or practicing with your partner? There's so many different aspects. Which ones are kind of what have you been focusing on?
I've been focusing on all the ones you just mentioned.
Okay,
great.
And then I would say equally much. I mean, I don't think I cannot say, but I think I'm one of the athletes in the top mix of Ödyssey the last years that knows the course, because I've been learning the course since 2016. Obviously, looking back at the old coverages, and that's I've been doing that, going out on the course, training, and then basically studying the map. So I memorized, all the distances. People write distances on their paddles is very common in swimrun, but I know them by heart, and I've learned the course in my head. So, I mean, I know what to expect, so I can prepare me mentally. I think a lot of in endurance sport is to be prepared, because it's not about finding the last bit of energy in every second, like in a sprint race or an ITU 1 hour. That's like full gas the whole time. In endurance sports, it's more about pacing and mentally prepare yourself so you're always on a good mentally state of mind, if you understand. So you have a positive feeling going through the whole race. and you get that by always knowing what's next. When people don't know, and like what's going to happen with now in society, Corona, then it comes with uncertainty, anxiety, and stuff like that. So studying the course has been definitely one key. And when you know the course, it's easy to know where it's good to have nutrition, how to make your nutrition plans, because you know where you have to go hard, where you can eat, where you get some kind of automatic rest or whatever. And you know the different controls where the stations, checkpoints you go through. And then obviously the training is the base of everything. And we learned, we who have raced the race so long, we have learned to what sessions do we need to fit into the last 12 weeks to really be successful. Just like I guess the best guys on Kona, they know work need to be done. I remember I had Aris Fal Sultan, and he said we had his as a coach on my endurance center gym I have here, and he flew over and he said, you need to swim on 48 minutes. If you know you can do that, that's fine. And then you need to push 300 watts if you're 70 kilos, and you need to be able to run sub 4-minute pace. And if you can do that in Kona, you're on the podium. And it's like, that's been the same for the last 15 years, he said. It's like, you just need to learn the body to do that in the heat, and then that's the formula. And then I mean, obviously, I'm telling you guys what we need to have the key sessions, but you have to have the strength, you have to have the setup, the financial part, you have to have the motivation, you have to have everything around you in life to be able to train to set up for that. But that's the same kind of formula that is worked for people have worked in Kona, and we have the same, I guess, in Ödyssey. Like, this is the formula you really roughly need to do to get there to win.
So I have a question about that. So when we met you in Catalina earlier this year, obviously no one had ever run that race. There wasn't hours of video to prepare for it. So how, I think I'd really love to get some insight in. So, well, how did you tackle preparing for Catalina under those circumstances, kind of knowing that this is going to be a first impression for everyone else, and kind of what did you do to make sure that you were as ready as possible for a race you've never done before?
Yeah, good, important questions. I mean, the main focus was obviously this is going to be a hilly race, so a lot of the key sessions is going to be running. Most of the interval sessions and the efforts you do in the training over a week is going to be going uphill to build strength. And then also on your long runs, doing a lot of downhill running for your quads and getting your body prepared to run quick down, which the people who race Catalina really got to experience. I mean, I had a blast going down on the other side of the island, and people were walking or going on their bum downhill, like in a ski mountain. And it was really challenging downhill, which suits me really good, but that's also, how you need to prepare for that kind of race. So that was the preparation I could do. Then, I mean, other preparations, I mean, I studied the map obviously, but there was a lot of preparations that I couldn't do to familiarize with a course. Or so I mean, it was a lot of much more uncertainties and challenges for me going into that race. When I was on that start line, I was a lot more uncertain of what was coming and what challenges I would meet during the race, and also it was some really interesting and really strong teams on the starting line. Which, I mean, on Ödyssey, I know exactly about my competition and what's waiting. But in America, we had a lot of the good triathletes, really strong in the beginning, and they really made their move in the beginning. And I was like, oh shit! If they can do this pace for 4 or 5 hours more, I'm going to have a hard time, and then you come in contact with those, mentally not so good, mindset and thoughts, not believing in yourself and so on. So we dropped into like 4th, 5th position. but stayed within our rhythm. And then after this, I think second or third swim, we were running in second again, and then we found our way into the race, and then we were, in the lead when I got hyperthemia. And this is also a very learning. We're going to stay on this thing here because this is a very. Even if I've been into swimrun in 10 years, I really got my my ass kicked from a race in a learning point of view, because the day before, 2 days before the race, I tried a new suit from ARC for the first time, which was awesome in any way. And the weather on Catalina was around 24, 25 Celsius degrees. And the suit, I tried the suit in the water, and it was super good for the swimming. We swam about around 1,500 meters. Didn't experience any cold or anything. But then on the race day, 2 days later, the temperature sank to like 13, 15 degrees, an air temperature. On race day, the air temperature dropped.
It was pretty cold, yeah.
Yeah, it was really cold. And so when you're running on race day, you never got the heat like you did 2 days before, when it was like 10 degrees Celsius warmer. So, and if you would have been more experienced racer than I am, I would have known that, Oscar, you need to be quick here in your preparation and swap suit. Frederick said like the day before, like I would never dare to do in that suit. But I was like thinking to myself, I just tried the suit and it worked well. And it's a super good suit if it's for warmer conditions.
Were you wearing the VIG suit?
Yes. Okay. And I was the only one in the whole race. And
that's a good suit,
everybody.
A great suit. Everybody when it's warmer.
Everybody racing. If you ask anyone, Lars Finnegar and other of the guys in the swimrun community in the US, they will tell you that everybody had really big troubles with the cold. And then I had the suit is a FU like a swim skin you use in triathlon. So. Right. It has no warming effect whatsoever and no buoyancy, but it's just awesome to run in. And so it was just a rookie mistake. And running in the lead at 1.5, 2 hours from the finish, and then I just didn't want to. Fredrik had to put me in, throw me into the water the 3 last swims, because I was like, I don't want to go into the water. Like I was just shivering, and I was not conscious. I didn't know where I was.
Wow.
So
I did see those pictures after, and they threw the big jacket on you, and you definitely were looking a little blue there.
Yeah. There were no. I'm just going to tell you, all people listen to this to the beginners, that there was a lot of how do you say?
Volunteers.
Yeah. So I was never Frederick, who was conscious. He was, and that's the beauty with swimrun, that you always have a teammate, and so there was never no danger with my health during the race. But so there was always people around us that could give us help if we would have wanted to pull out of the race. But
right.
My body really shut down, and I couldn't function and as well as I would have needed to win at least.
Yeah, totally. And I think that same scenario really got a lot of people as well. We were several hours behind you, but we were passing people that weren't getting into the swims because they were already hypothermic. Because like you said, the temperature I think on Saturday was 70 or 72 Fahrenheit, but then on Sunday it dropped down into the 60s, which is a pretty big 10, 15 degree swing, especially on the air temperature is significant.
Yeah, especially when you were on the backside of the island too. It's like once you had those long shadows from the mountain, I feel like the water got
chillier,
notably colder.
It's a cold day.
yeah. So but you still, all things considered, you still had a great race. So kudos for doing that semi-consciously, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had some cushion in time before I got shut down, so we just hang in there and made it to the finish. Happy to stay on the podium for Fredrik's sake, going around the world to race.
Yeah.
Well, so you've raced handfuls of times over in Europe and Sweden and everything, and this was your first swim run, especially as Ötillö's first swim run appearance in the United States as well.
Yeah.
Would love to hear kind of your thoughts on that, about how did you think the first U.S. Ötillö swim run event went earlier this year?
I mean, it went so good in so many ways, and I would say the major thing that it was such a success was because of the people. Okay, so Americans, in my opinion, has a much more nicer way how they look at sports. It's so much bigger, in sports. So I mean, every time I get in contact with Lars or other people from the swimmer community in the US, there's so much interest and energy and towards the sport and the whole thing of swim run. So we almost felt like rock stars coming over there, which is great because that's what all sports need if you want the sport to grow. And so I mean, the athletes, the volunteers, everybody around the race, the people of Catalina was we felt so welcomed for them to throw in the race. If you go to Sweden, you have landowners who like, oh, please, do you have to come here and race? Why do we sport? Can we just do other stuff? And it's a whole different mentality. And so that was super good. And then it felt so good to be on the first swimrun race in the US, because I think if swimrun is going to make it as a sport in the world, it will need to make it into the swimrun market in the US. And if we can do that, I think it can be a global sport for real, because that is a big market that can really make it big. So I hope after this pandemic problems we're through now, we can get back and make more Ötillö races in the US.
I mean, you brought it up, but let's talk a little bit. I wanted to chat with you about how you've been handling kind of the pandemic. Obviously, this year kind of all went to shit. Ötillö wasn't able to put on the World Championship. A bunch of other races, they ended their season early, canceled a bunch of races. How has that been for you, sort of emotionally? How have that changed your goals for this year and next year? And sort of how have you just been dealing with it?
Yeah, great question. I don't want to brag, but I think, and it's not about bragging, but I mean, as a person, I think, and not only as a racer, but just as Oscar Olsson, I'm just a very positive person. I've just seen this pandemic as something that the world needs, because there's obviously something we need to learn from this. So I'm just trying to embrace it, as this is a hard lesson for humankind that we need to overcome together, to stop doing things maybe we're not doing as good as we should. And when we come, I hope that, and I believe that when we come on the other side of the pandemic, we will have new insights going forward and doing things better to each other and the world we're living in. So I'm just trying to keep doing things that I think is fun, meaningful, training, challenging myself, and just getting enjoying life, but still taking responsibility for not following the guidelines from the government, and then just trying to do sports in the way that we are allowed at the moment, and preparing myself to be fit for winning Ötillö or any other swimrun race when the time comes. And so I think I have a very relaxed, of course I also have a lot of understanding for the things people are going through with this pandemic. They have people close to them, maybe getting sick or even passing away, but that's life for many people around the world in bad places on a daily basis. So I think I haven't been that affected in mentally, but of course I had to change my life accordingly.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting outlook on it. That's a nice perspective, and I think we've kind of noticed some of that here too. I mean, it has caused everyone to hit the pause button and take a look around at what's important to you. Is it driving 2 hours to work in the morning and on the way home, or is it spending some more time with your family or going on hikes on the weekends? So, we're hoping for sure that a lot of some of the more positive things that has come out about this, being closer, tight knit to your family and your circle of friends and being outside is gonna stick through.
Yeah, I mean, I think even speaking for myself, I used to travel a lot for work, doing consulting, and the pandemic basically grounded me, and this is the longest I've been at home continuously for a long time, and I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to that. I like being at home. I like being with my kids.
I mean, I think you're spot on. I think that's what the pandemic wants to learn the world and the people living in it, and I think that's what we're gonna take away from all this. That this is good learning lessons for all of us, and I mean, I understand, as I said, this is a tough period we're going through, but if we can see, like, I try to see the same way I see, the big challenge of, I mean, losing Catalina, the big race, I was prepped to win in the end in such a, way that to getting, hyperthermia and choosing the wrong suit and all that. Very tough thing for me to go through, but if I can only see it as a learning process as an athlete, it becomes much more easier to come over it and move forward. And the same with this pandemic, if you can look at it as not just hell, we just see it as a learning lesson. It's going to be easier, I think, for us to get through it now and after.
That's great. So going back to hearing you talk about your racing and stuff, I just couldn't help but hear like a major theme of you have a substantial amount of trust in your own training and your own preparation, whether that's studying before or the actual training of swim and run and swim run. Is that based on your outlook or just years of positive experience, like training, trust the training, and you get the result? And that's kind of reinforced that, or is there a different approach that you have?
I mean, I've been going to therapy and working with myself as, individual mentally to try to work on all aspects of myself to become a better friend, father, human, boyfriend. I'm single at the moment, or, just a better person in all ways. And that includes racer as well. So that's, I think, just going about how my way of going about life, and then just has positive effects for myself as an athlete, meeting challenges in a race or in a pandemic or in a session, which is, tough at the moment.
I think that's so great. And that's definitely another theme we've heard is sort of, there's a mental side to excelling at swim run that is unique in sort of the challenges and the adversity that you face. The longer the race, the elements, the water currents, everything. Now let's lighten it up a little bit. I'm really curious to hear kind of what are some of your funniest experiences in a swim run. I mean, we interviewed Johan maybe a month and a half ago, and he was saying how this team that beat him, they'd stop to get a beer
in Engadin or something.
Yeah,
right?
in Engadin. And I guess they didn't have money, but they still gave him a beer because they were wearing their kit.
Trying to find I mean, I also had to do number 2 in second position in a big race once. 2016, when me and Paul, we just caught Daniel and Lelle, who was in the lead, just 40 minutes before finish, and like we were pushing so hard to catch them in the end, and I think I kind of bonked a little, but I mean I still had a great, we had a great speed moving forward, but I was just on the limit, and I had a gel in my hand, or I think I had 2 gels actually, as like, we call it emergency rockets, whatever. You have them close again, and I was running, and I was like yelling to Paul, like, Paul, I need gels. He's like, I don't have any gels. And I was like, Paul, I need gels. Like, I don't. And he's like, keeps saying, I don't have any gels. Sorry. And then I looked and I said, I have gels. And then he said, yeah, but then eat them. Or he told me that. So it's, just how your brain activity works less good.
Yeah.
That's
So
really funny.
he
In
was
the end of,
he was thinking that you were asking him for some nutrition or some gel, and then and then you were just telling him, no, I need to slow down a little bit so I can eat this thing as he's ripping along.
yeah, maybe. Or I just like, the thing when you ask people, where's my sunglasses, then on your head,
Oh yeah.
that kind of thing. Like you're so not wasted, but you're so tired, and all oxygen is in your body and not in your brain, so your function is not as good as usually is.
Yeah, you got a little bit of fog going on.
What's been your favorite race that you've done?
Ödyssey 100 times. Catalina, and Ödyssey is the ultimate swimrun race in the world. It's just how the tough the course is, the variation of the course, and all the different challenges you go through. Also Catalina in Switzerland is the most beautiful race I ever raced. And then Catalina is also, the third nicest race I've raced in terms of race venue and the climate and the vegetation and the nature and so on. It's a super nice island, and also I appreciate things like hotel and the whole experience around the race. I think that's important when we don't race as much and we go half across the world to race. It's important to have a nice venue around the days before and after, maybe, to just and soak the environment, the people, and the new culture. Like there's new people. I lived in California, as I said, for a year and a half, so I get very familiarized with the people there. So it was great for me to come back and just experience that in Catalina, which I was really great for me. And then so those three races is definitely the best I've done so far.
Nice. Yeah, it's hard to beat the Southern California kind of vibe.
Especially Catalina. Catalina's like so not LA, but LA's right there.
It was the best race breakfast I ever had. Like they had, I don't remember the name of the restaurant now, but they you guys who were there too. The hotel, the restaurant. They had a collaboration with it. It was it was the best race breakfast I ever had. So.
Oh yeah, we definitely ate good there for sure. That was a fun trip for sure.
Yeah. And that's what the swimrun sport also need, that kind of, that kind of setup to with the things, the surroundings to make people coming into the sport and experience this big Ödyssey races, which are, qualifier races for the world champs. Even if people are not set up to take a spot, maybe it's still just to get into that environment, getting a great experience, and want to come back and back and back to make the sports grow, and just the community and all the good things about swimrun. We want to have more people coming into the sport, and then those things are so important as well, especially for the people who are not, looking to win.
I think that's so right, and we definitely experienced it when we were in Catalina. It was our first Attila race, first time kind of on that stage, and we already had the podcast. We've been learning a lot about the sport, but to actually be there, it was really great just to get that vibe. And for me, it felt really different than kind of like your triathlon or Ironman vibe. And I know you've raced both. What do you think contributes to that? Like, why is the community, for lack of a better word, so cool? Whereas in, Ironman, it can just be like a pissing contest, like, oh, what's your bike split? It gets really competitive, time trial-y. And swimrun, obviously there's competitive people, but everyone's still hanging out before the race. Everyone's hanging out at the finish line. Everyone's happy to finish. Like, what do you think, since you've had so much experience in the sport, like, what do you think contributes to that?
Yeah, I really think what I know what I think. And for me, it's that swimrun is a whole different kind of sport that attracts a whole different things, different other types of personalities. Okay. So for me, I've come to learn that, I look at some of the best pros in triathlon, and I follow them. And now it's Challenge Daytona coming up. I'm going to follow the race, and I know all the people racing. So because that's just a personal interest I have in sports, like people follow soccer or American football or whatever. And a lot of those, athletes are great, just awesome athletes, like in, swimming or running or whatever other sport. Okay. But if looking at the amateurs, for me, at least my experience is that it's people who are, very successful in life and just, moving the way forward with their maybe elbows, and they're doing races not for themselves in the terms of they love the process and the journey. It's more of something to brag on or show off for their co-workers or their friends or families or whatever, and maybe they're not in love with the sport even, or just they don't like, they just see the sessions as a must to have this glory of fame or whatever. And then you become this not this great relationship between an athlete and a sport, and the community doesn't grow as good. Whereas in swimrun, they attract other kind of people that are more down to earth and like team working, not individually sport based like triathlon. It's more like, I help you. If you can't get up in the water, I reach my hand out and pull you up, and we're in this together, like a society or a community should be. Whereas in triathlon, it's more, I'm going to beat you, and if I can be 49 instead of 50, I do whatever it takes, and I can draft. I mean, how is even drafting? Why do we need the draft rule? Like, why do we need a locker on a bike? I mean, it shouldn't be required, because an athlete shouldn't want to draft and win not honestly. I mean, for me, I cannot make sense out of that, but that just tells me or us that triathlon attract that kind of people. And that is, I was a really long answer now, but you feel I'm very emotionally connected to this, and I stay in swimrun and love swim.
You definitely sound triggered, and I think you would, at this point, you'd consider yourself a swim runner, not a triathlete. I'm guessing.
I still love the sport of triathlon. I still dig it. It's a super cool sport.
You know what? I'm right there with you. I mean, I love triathlon. I still want to continue to do them, but I agree. I think there's something about getting sort of the Ironman badge. Like, I remember, if you have friends that go to Hawaii and they come back and they're like, oh, how'd it go? And it's like, oh, great, I went surfing. What they really mean is that they rented a board, got their ass kicked, almost drowned like 4 times, got cut in the reef. But when you get back to the office, no one knows.
Yeah, no one knows that.
Just tell them you went surfing. It's like, wow, that's so cool. And I feel like Ironman has kind of become like the badge of honor that like marathons used to be.
Yeah.
But in swimrun, there's no hiding behind a course that's flat and fast. Nope. There's no, you're completely exposed to the elements, and you have, like you said, you have to do this journey with someone else, and you have to, deal with adversity together and solve problems. And if someone can't finish, then you both don't finish. And I think the way you articulated it, like, I hadn't thought about it that way, but I think that makes a lot of sense. It's just like the challenge itself draws a different type of person. And those people tend to be less, concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun if you look at different. I mean, you have different diversity between cultures, but I can really connect with Lars Finnegar, who's also been an Ironman athlete, really good athlete. Mm-hmm. Like I was back in the day in Ironman, and we both moved from triathlon, maybe because of work and family also, and time wise, and moved into swimrun, but also because not only lack of time of training long hours on the bike, but also because we felt more connected to the swimrun as a sport and the community and the people within it. And he's from the US, and I know that when he listens to this podcast, he will agree with me, because we had this talk so many times and share this opinion that I think speaking, I cannot speak for Lars, but we had discussions, and when he explains the thing I just went through, it's the same experience, and he has the same opinion, I think. So I mean, it's fun to see that people, type of people like me and Lars, then we move from triathlon and find swimrun. I mean, that's good. I mean, everybody who find their, connections with people in triathlon is, they should stay there, and that's good. It's, people are not made to be in all different groups and all different sports. I mean,
right.
the best thing people can do is find what suits them best, and similarities. I think, we have a saying in Sweden that like kids play best. Like, sometimes people say, oh, we're so good, we complement each other. It's like, I say, like, people who are very alike play best. And that's not, I'm not saying that anything is wrong or right. I'm just saying that the more like we are to each other, the more we'll probably have finding ways to work together.
Get along. Yeah.
I think
like that.
That totally makes sense. I think it's interesting. I mean, we've chatted with Lars a lot, and he's the one who recommended that we reach out to you to interview, and we were like, yeah, he's on our list, so don't worry. But yeah, I think there's something about, yeah, I mean, I do think Lars would agree with you that, in many ways, I feel like we're all lucky that we found Swimrun, and it's something that we've, discovered it and realized that it was something that was for us. And I think we could only wish that for every athlete out there to find kind of the sport that they really gravitate to.
And it might be triathlon.
And enjoy. And it might be triathlon. Yeah. Exactly. It might be road running, might be trail running, might be
hiking, whatever.
Badminton, whatever.
Curling.
Yeah, when that's the thing I want to finish with in this, that, finding your sport, but still having the respect towards to other people, having finding their kind of sports or community or whatever suits them. So we should always have a respect for other people's decision and way of going life. I mean, there's, I think also, US is better maybe than Sweden, that of accepting the free will of the individuals. So I'm all for different things, different people, different sports, and for people trying different sports to find what suits them best.
I just want to really thank you for coming on the show. And I know you have your own, is it your own coaching business or your own fitness center? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's an endurance based fitness center and coaching business where I basically help people who have any kind of challenge or endurance goal they want to achieve or work towards. And it's in all different levels, from people who wants to just get back to running their first 5K, or people doing Ödyssey, obviously Ironman or whatever. So I just love to help people to make the best that they can from themselves with the tools and abilities they have. I think I really love. I want people to start working more from a self-based perspective. I experience that we compare ourselves so much to others, and we need to come back to ourselves and just say to ourselves that it's fine to challenge, from my perspective, my point of view and my abilities. I don't need to compare with my neighbor or my coworkers or my club mates or whatever. And that's the things I try to teach from my center. That
love it.
Find your challenge. Yeah,
I love it. Well, we'll make sure to link the website in our show notes. But Oscar, thank you so much for spending the time. I know you have a kid at home. We're about to go back to our kids, so we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. This is great.
Yeah, just awesome for everything to join the show. I hope this could get more people into the sport and find interest of the sport and try swimrun, and love the work you do, guys. It's awesome. We follow you guys here from Sweden, and we're so thankful that the sports that you guys and Finnegar and all the rest in trying to make the sport grow over there.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. And we've been, you mentioned community several times. Obviously we wouldn't be doing what we're doing if it wasn't for the community, like being so just embracing us, and all the positivity and support is just, honestly, it's been kind of overwhelming and unexpected. And I think it just totally reinforces our opinion that this is like one of the greatest communities that there is, the swimrun community. That's international too. It doesn't matter if you're a Swede or American or you never heard of it or whatever. Everyone is just having a great time.
After the pandemic, I hope to come visit you guys, and I hope to invite you guys to some Sweden race and see how a proper Swedish swimrun course look like. And
we're already friends.
We're
already scared.
We'll see you 3 hours at the finish line. Yeah, no, we're totally planning once we can travel. We're gonna do a European tour, so we'll definitely hit you up on that.
Awesome.
When we make it to Sweden.
All right, Oscar. Thanks
Sweden,
again.
I'll be your host. Yeah.
And have a great one.
Great. All right, take care, Oscar.
Bye.
Take care. Great chatting with you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Low Tide Boyz, a Swimrun podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review on iTunes if you're so inclined.
You can also sign up for a newsletter at lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, drop us an email at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun activities, hobbies, and other bullshit we do.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then run to the finish line. And just keep going until you're done.
Yes, or
until
run
you
to
cross the finish line.
Or run to the car.
Or run to your car.
Somewhere. Just keep running.
Only happiness, I'm about to smile.